What's up, everybody? Happy Turkey Day, happy Thanksgiving. Hitting the elliptical. Was feeling really shitty, so I thought I'd record a thought. I wrote something down a little while ago, and it's true, and it is kind of a heavy statement to unpack. Came to me late night. I stay up sometimes until 2, in the morning, that time frame, if I don't have to do something the next day, at least in the morning. And I get more creative thoughts flowing in and out of me that, at that time than I do really at any other time during the day, unless I'm working out or surfing or skiing or doing something, that helps me to get into that flow state, if you will. But late night does it for me as well. And maybe a week or two ago, I was up late and thinking through some things and writing things down, to-do lists and that kind of thing. And I came up with a good statement to deal with my emotional landscape. And it's love is all there is. And that took me a while to realize the profundity of it. It's easy to think that we can see other people's intentions or other people's virtue. But the reality is we don't ever know the whole story of somebody else's life. You just don't. You could know 99% of a person's life, and if that 1% was, terrible enough, it would skew their behavior so much so that you would never be able to account for their motivations and so forth. So you never have full understanding of another person's space. But the only reason I bring that up, and maybe sometimes you do if you can commune with one another or hug or what have you, but I think realizing that even what we see as the evil of others is really just their love twisted, maybe inverted, as the Beatles say. And that's a helpful thing for me to try to work through, because, I'm sure just like all the rest of you guys out there, I have my, struggles. And one of the most intense for me is my own opinion of myself. And it fluxes, but when it's bad, it's bad. And not even for any rational reason, right? We have a mechanism inside of us, I suppose, our conscience, when we do something, really ill, harmful, malevolent, we'll feel it. But I think there's that same mechanism can overjudge, can misjudge, can overrun itself with false narratives. And for me, I don't know, I'm a younger brother, competitive, want my shot at the title, at the limelight. I want to, make good. I want to show that I'm good enough. And I struggle with that. I don't feel good enough, most of the time. It's odd. It's like I either feel like I'm the best and that I got to prove it. And if I can't, or if I don't, I feel like the worst. Not only conceptually or with respect to achievements, but also morally, in status and so forth. So I go through this real internal battle of finding self-worth, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that my parents split up when I was 8, and, I'm not a whiner. I'm not going to sit here and bitch and moan about it, but I know that is something that I, let's say, have allowed to affect my, evolution as a human, 20, 25 years later. So something that I have to be aware of, and it's something that, is one of my demons that I have to exercise, and I do it through exercise. And that's why I thought it'd be helpful to record this video, because when I think of the cycles that I go through with, my internal chatter, you feel me, my moods, I immediately feel a great deal of compassion for everybody else that I know that's also suffering, in their own way. And I think that is just about all of us. And it's hard for me to craft a narrative, a brand that is received positively by, the marketplace, the masses, as something that has value and is potentially very helpful. And it's as simple as, for me, trying to steer the narrative of mental health away from the discussion about mental illness into a discussion about, an actualized human. I think the key prerequisite premise that we have to agree upon is that everybody that's quote unquote like got it figured out or doing well or making good money and these kinds of things is not necessarily a good person. Like a lot of times, millionaires, billionaires, successful, heads of state, of companies, of families are making real terrible decisions. And that's no surprise. We all understand that conceptually, but we still base our behavior patterns around the recognition of dominance hierarchies and status structures that, at once are necessary for the function of our society, but also are the mechanisms that need to be challenged by the individual, by the virtue of the individual. You have to go into that group of people that you think is doing shit wrong, and you have to assert yourself, and they are going to fight you. Maybe not physically, maybe not on any one front, but there's certainly going to be resistance to a person from the outside coming in and trying to establish their status level in a already, lithified, stratigraphy of individuals in terms of their status. So this is something that I repeatedly run into in my life. Like, it's for sure a recurring pattern in my life. And I think it's a mechanism of once my parents split, I immediately felt without a home, like I was a bastard, like I was just extra parts to a toy that you bought that, you're taking back to the store, you know what I mean? I was no longer relevant. I was no longer valid as a person. The family unit that produced me was no longer. So my only real fundamental response to this in terms of self-preservation was, fuck it, I'm out of here. I'm gonna escape, to a land where I'm still of value, And I've been doing that my whole life. I go, to a place and then I establish myself as virtuous and I gain a level, if you will. Showed I was a smart kid in high school, got a 4.3, good GPA. And then I was out, I had attendance probation and I didn't take the SAT 2 writing, and all of my, best college applications were thrown out. I was a varsity, sports athlete. I had tremendous grades, and boom, I had to go to a state school because I had kind of fucked off. And then, I go to the state school, U of O, and I party hard and show that I'm like a cool dude and drop out, Then I go to UCSC and realize that the only place that I found any kind of purity of experience was surfing and smoking with interesting people. So that's what I did. And I got my degree after 8 years, long walkabout, took a lot of terms off, And then went into the corporate world, and only out of a kind of a lucky break, but got into recruiting in the Silicon Valley and moved up the ranks and made $93,000 after 3 years, and hated it. Once I had established myself in that group, I gained status, I bounced. I like to leave before they can get rid of me. There's obviously particulars and things, but I hurt my back before I got out of recruiting. But realized that they didn't give a shit about me, you know, no disrespect to anybody involved in those times, but like, you know, companies want money. That's all they give a fuck about. They don't give a fuck about you. So you've got to give a fuck about you. And you've got to establish yourself in whatever group of people that you're going to give your time to. And you got to occupy that station, you know. And I'm not any better at it than anybody else, you know. I'm just learning where I go wrong. You know, and so I cherish the groups that I'm still a part of after years and years, like the National Ski Patrol. You know, I'm still a patroller, and I'm going to continue to patrol. You know, I'm an EMT after a few years. I just recertified, and I'm working on becoming a paramedic. You know, and working out is something that just brings me back to that reality that no matter how shitty I feel about myself, no matter how far I feel my actual life is from what my life should be, which is where we all find pain, right? When things don't match up to our expectations, our hopes. Well, whenever that place is sucking me down, you know, I just work out. I just physically move, man. I just push the energy through me, you know, and I can literally feel it, you know, reset. That's why I think there's a lot of truth, if not, you know, a avenue towards, you know, some measure of deep, perfect knowledge in the Eastern traditions, in the ideas of chi and prana and, you know, flow and you know, the realities of the profundity of meditation and so forth. So, you know, these are things that I come back to when I realize that, you know, my worth is a function of my own action. Nobody else's, nobody's judgment. I don't give a fuck about your judgment because I'm going to go and do it the next thing, you know? So this is something that's helpful for me to realize and remember. And coming back to the initial statement, all there is that's all trying to work together is love. That's the force, right? If you're a Star Wars fan. Or the spice, if you're a Dune reader. You know, the dust, if you've read The Golden Compass. The ethereal, the mythic, the ether. It's just love. That's the only thing that conceptually fits the function, the formula, the feeling that we feel towards the cosmos around us is love. And we know that from a small child. It's what satiates and survives us. So to navigate through life, whether you're on the top of a status, you know, pyramid and you have a lot of serotonin all the time and everything just seems pretty easy and like you got it figured out, or if you're on the bottom of a status pyramid and you're constantly worried about your well-being and your serotonin levels are very low and your whole world is always crashing down, which are both realities for people on the planet right now. You know, and keep in mind the two switch places periodically. You know, there's nobody so high and mighty that they can't fall to the depths of despair, and there's nobody so dejected that, you know, the right outcome of a few interactions couldn't, you know, make their day brighter. So for me, it just helps to keep my eye on the prize of wellness, of health. And I'm not selling anything, you know, like I don't have a fucking factory in China that's spitting out some doodad that I'm gonna tell you makes you healthy. I'm not interested in that shit. It makes me sick. The commodification of the you know, conceptual landscape. You know, you make yourself well, and you do it by doing the thing, you know, that's hard, and you do it by standing your ground and speaking up for yourself and not giving in to the pressure of those around you, which is hard. It's not easy, you know. So I just want you to know that I'm suffering right here with you, and let's get it. Let's fight back. Let's work harder, and not at the systemized behavior sets that have been given to you from your, you know, your hierarchy that you occupy, you know, whatever industry or a group of people that you're, working within, work on you. Work on yourself. And I'm not some fucking high and mighty, holier than thou person telling you how to do that or what that looks like. I'm doing it for myself as well. It's just value your own opinion. Value your own good feeling. Don't ask people for their affirmation, for their validation. Fuck them. It's just not important. Give other people validation. Give other people affirmation. Realize how important your opinion and feelings are. And maybe we can start, turning the tide on a lot of the internal pain that a lot of us struggle with. I know I do. Much love. I appreciate, you guys that watch these videos. I know I get a lot out of the videos that I watch that I'm a fan of, surfing mostly, but things that keep me feeling and thinking positive are really helpful. So I want to be another bastion of that kind of message, and I do it by just showing you guys my journey. Hey, don't have much money, I've got a lot of different skills, but don't really have a career, moved all over the West Coast, and just getting after it, being really honest with myself, not drinking, doing edible cannabis, but not much, and at the right times, working out every day, working really hard to try to get my professional life organized, which is very difficult for me. I tend to want to do, 7 things at once instead of one thing. But it's because of that mentality that I have that I'm aware of, and that is I'm always ready for the rug to get pulled out from under me, and then it inevitably gets blamed on me. So it makes me want to protect myself. But at the end of the day, all I can do is armor my body with muscle and armor my mind with positive frameworks of thought. And so that's the work, that's the job, of life, not of just, the company that I'm working for right now. So much love to you guys. I really do hope that you find peace of mind in whatever you are putting your time and energy to, and that thing that you're doing is positive and, constructive and something that's going to be sustainable, whether it's exercise or good food or, learning a language or a musical instrument or what have you, Yeah, more power to you. Much love. And, I'm going to see if I can't keep sparking my own creative self, and I'll keep the videos coming. We did just get snow yesterday, or two days it's been snowing. It just stopped tonight. So we'll be skiing soon. Much love, you guys. I really appreciate you watching my video. Subscribe if you're at all interested. I'm going to keep trying to get podcasts produced, and maybe even up on the iTunes store if I can, but check out the snow before I go. Much love.